Hello, everyone. I'm doing the intro today. Welcome back to Relationships, Romance, and Propaganda Podcast. I am one of your hosts, author Rachel Burke, and this is filmmaker, director Imani Shakur.
That's me.
This is the only podcast where we expose the truth and broadcast the lies about relationships, love, sex, marriage, friendships, anything that has to do with relationships. And we are the sexiest relationship podcast in the galaxy.
Exactly. In the galaxy.
We're real and uncut. We tell the truth. And please, please, please subscribe, especially YouTube. We would love you for that.
Yeah. ICT Group Digital on YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which stands for what is it?
Infinite Stories Entertainment Group.
Yeah. See, I like his whole title. He abbreviates it, but I like the whole title. Yeah. And then if you have any questions, any suggestions for anything that you want us to talk about, you can email rptalktruth@gmail.com. So we love suggestions. We'd love for you guys to really make any recommendations on anything you'd like us to cover that is related to relationships.
Exactly.
All right.
Sounds good to me.
You are.
Good job, Rach.
Thanks.
You sound better than me.
I never wanted to be a host because I felt like I didn't have that personality to be like, hi, guys, welcome back. Like those women are always so bubbly.
Right.
Whenever I get casting notices, it's like host with a bubbly personality. I'm like, no, delete.
That's funny.
No,
she makes my job a little easier today.
Fun.
So today we're talking about yellow flags. And, we talked about, in relationships, we always talk about red flags and warning signs and white for whatever. But,
purple.
one of my friends brought up the other day, like yellow flags. And I thought it was really good because
and you wore your yellow hat.
Yeah, it's kind of like tan, yellow, whatever. But it's funny because it's interesting. Sometimes you see yellow flags and you ignore them because they're like, well, that wasn't really a red flag.
Right.
Maybe this can be worked out.
And then you think back and you're like, oh, yeah, I should have paid attention to that.
You should have paid attention to that yellow flag. So we're going to talk about yellow flags today. Rachel says she has a lot to say about it, which is good.
I have a whole list already.
Right. So I'll just bounce off of her. I don't have that much to say about it because the topic was just brought to me recently, but I do agree with it. So now I'm starting to pay more attention to those yellow flags.
Well, you're the one who
making it. Yeah, I brought it up to you, and then making a decision on what to do when you see these yellow flags. Like how much more cautiously optimistic you should move with that particular person.
Remember, yellow means flags. Proceed with caution.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll let Rachel
and
jump it off.
Red means abort mission.
Exactly. Red means stop.
Run.
Go the other way.
Don't walk away.
Exactly. So yeah.
So you brought this up last month when we shot, and I thought, it's funny because I think when you're dating somebody, even the red flag sometimes, like if you really like someone, you turn a blind eye.
Yeah, we all do. I've done it. We all do that. Mm-hmm.
And, because I think the yellow flags are probably there initially. Then the red flags come out, right? Because the red flags generally, I don't think, come out maybe until you know someone a little bit better.
Right.
And then, you either proceed into a relationship or you split.
Right.
It's usually one or the other. But yeah, when you mentioned it last month, and then I had this whole thing happen with the guy I was dating, and I thought back and I was like, oh my God, there were so many yellow flags that I didn't want to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So the first one that stuck out to me is when we shot here. Remember, I went downstairs and I talked to him on the phone.
Yes.
He was in and I wanted to talk to him because he was in a custody battle with his ex, and I wanted to see if he was okay. And he called her the C word, and it was like, I don't get offended by that, but you don't know that yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we've only been dating for a month. A lot of women take offense to that word.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that.
And I don't, but I was like, wow, he just threw that out there and didn't, with no inhibitions.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, she might be one of those girls that's offended by that. So that, that was something that I thought of. We also would have these and these are things every relationship you learn what you don't want in the next one, right? And, I would always say that my ex was we would have very surface level conversations a lot. It's like, how was your day? How was work? I went to the gym. And I was I would like to get in
Falling
here.
Asleep.
Yeah. I want to get in here and really get to know you. What do you want? What are your fears?
Exactly.
It's our conversations were very, very surface level. But I think this is more of a red one that I'm going to save. But a big thing was that I didn't pay attention to how selfish he was.
Okay.
So, for example, like the text. So remember, I told you in one of our other episodes too. Like the texts were all about him. It was like, I wish it would snow. Random, and you were like, random stuff.
Yeah.
Random stuff. I wish it would snow. I just went food shopping, but it was not like, how are you doing?
It wasn't engaging at all.
Right. There was no me in that conversation. It was all
Yeah.
about him. So that really became a bright yellow flag. Maybe going into red a few times because so he knew I had just bought a place. And every day when he called me, he'd be like, what'd you do today? I'm like, I'm moving. I moved all day. The next day, what are you doing? I'm still moving. You know, I had stuff get delivered. I have furniture people here. So he knew it was like a big, big, big project, right? Like weeks I was moving, buying stuff, having people assemble it. I finally finish. And I sent him a picture. And he would always send me pictures of him and his kid. But never like ask me for any pictures. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you're kind of like self-centered.
Yeah, that is a yellow flag.
So
that would lead to like show other things about the person's personality. I don't mean to cut you. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, maybe that's on me. Maybe I should start sending him pictures.
Yeah.
So I finally finish everything. It took me weeks. I get everything moved. Everything's decorated perfectly. I take this beautiful picture. I edit it. I send it to him. And I was like, I finally finished everything today. Didn't even respond or acknowledge the text.
Serious.
That night, he sends me a text completely unrelated to the picture I sent him. And he goes, hey, I'm just putting my son to bed. And I'm like...
You didn't even say, hey, it turned out great. Thanks for sharing.
Nothing.
Yeah, definitely a yellow flag. Yeah.
And I'm like, that was really weird that he didn't even like acknowledge that. And you know what else he didn't acknowledge too?
Was that more of a red flag though? I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, he played himself off as like this busy guy who like owned this company. And he, remember I told you I'd check Instagram and he would be offline for like 8 hours sometimes during the day. So I was just like, maybe he just wasn't on his phone. And then he just like real quick was like, I'm going to send her a text before I go to bed. You know what I mean? Like I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. The other related thing to that is our first date. He was saying how he loves to cook and he would always, then he would like send me pictures of him cooking sometimes. And I said, oh, me too. I actually published a cookbook. Doesn't acknowledge that statement at all. And he says, oh, I was published in a cookbook once. I was like, oh, so you had one recipe published in a cookbook? Yeah. I had 75 recipes published in a cookbook. And I have hundreds on my website.
Right.
Like, do you know how much work? It took me over probably about 4 years to put all those recipes together, take pictures of them, edit it, learn Adobe, put a whole book together. You're not even going to say, you're not even going to ask me about it. You're not even going to acknowledge that statement. Oh, but you had one published. That's cute.
Right.
How about talk to me when you publish 74 more in a book.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just was like, I can't, and you know, it's funny, like, but it was one of those things, like we were getting to know each other and talking so fast that I kind of didn't like think about it until afterwards. Till
after the fact, yeah.
Right. And so that was like an initial yellow flag for me when I thought back, and I was like, he probably should have like said, wow, that's great. Congratulations.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a monumental
That's normal.
accomplishment.
That's normal. Right. If someone tells you that, you go, hey, that's amazing. Like, what was the process like? Tell me about it. Like, that's what you do. Like, genuine interest.
As a human being.
Yeah, just as a normal human.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Not even like trying to get with somebody. You don't discount it and
go, yeah, I had one recipe thing published. That's it? Like.
Right. Cool. Good for you.
That's strange.
Do you have a whole website you spent 3 years on?
Right. That's strange, Rach. I don't know.
But you know what I actually took it as was like, I felt like he was trying so hard to impress me that it was like, well, I did it too.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the impression I got. So I let it slide. The living room I was a little annoyed about. Because I was like, I just sent you this picture and I never send you pictures.
Yeah.
And you didn't even, like I know home decor isn't that exciting to guys, but like, you know, that was like a big accomplishment. Like, I've worked my whole life to buy a place, decorate it.
I even mentioned something when you posted that living room picture. I'm not even dating you.
My uncle.
But you know what I'm saying?
Helped me get
I was like,
loan.
yo, that looks amazing.
Right.
Yeah, you put it together.
I know. Everybody cared.
It looked really nice. Yeah.
I know.
That's strange.
Just so rude.
Whenever you know what's funny, guys, on the show, whenever she tells me things that men are doing, I always try to figure out what space that comes from. Because I'm so opposite, and the friends that I hang out with, the guy friends I know, they're so the opposite.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where are these men?
I know. I felt like I thought like when I first met him, he just seemed so confident and charming. But as I got to know him, I was like, no, I think he's actually insecure and was trying to impress me. That's why it was like, I was published in a cookbook. Look at me. Look at pictures of me. You know what I mean? Like all about him. And it's like, because people, how do I say this? People that are secure don't need to sell themselves to you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you don't need to, because my ex was super insecure and he admitted it. And that's why it was all about him all the time. Right? Like if I'm secure, I don't need to be like, I'm so awesome. Here's why I'm so awesome. I know I'm awesome. I don't need to sell myself to you or anybody else, because I know in here I'm secure with myself. Insecure people are going to be like, oh, this is why I'm so great. This is why I'm so great. This is what I've done. Right? Yeah. Big flag.
It's so funny. If I could just interject real quick.
Please.
Whenever I'm at the wineries, people ask me what I do, and it's usually when I'm wearing my company chains. I always say I sell insurance for Geico. Always. I'm never, and my friends are always like, dude, why don't you say you? I'm like, I don't care about that. I was like, I'll sell insurance for Geico. That's what I usually say. You know what I'm saying?
To see if they're a gold digger?
No, I just say it, period. No matter who it is. Guy, girl, young, old. When they ask me what I do, I sell insurance for Geico. Or I'll say, I own the company that McDonald's puts the French fries carton in.
So you make up
stuff?
stuff?
I just make stuff up. I never say what I do. And my friends are always like tripped out by it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My whole point is, you're right. Secure people don't have to be, this is who I am. What
if you, like when you met Em, did you say that to her?
I don't think we talked about that the first day. I think we talked about that the next time, and then her sister happens to be good friends with someone in my industry who she happened to ask about me. But at the time, I don't think she even remembered who I was or whatever. But all she had to do was just Google me anyway. She could just find all the stuff. But I never say, especially in public. Relationships are a little different than, I have to say.
But I'm saying, if you meet somebody you're interested in, would you still lie?
No, but I always say it in a certain way, because most people these days look you up anyway,
right?
And then they'll just see. But even when it's someone that I'm interested in, I say it in a certain way. That's not all I'm talking about, or I always make it seem like it's not a big deal, just a job.
Yeah, it's because like you don't want to talk about work.
Yeah,
I don't. I know. I always say like I have a day job, but I have creative things I do on the side.
Right. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Well, because then the problem is when you tell people you've published books, you don't really meet a lot of people who publish books.
Right, you don't.
So everybody...
It's such a thing that...
Everybody wants to ask you the same questions that you've answered 1,000 times.
Yep.
Well, what are they about? Well, tell me about that. It's like, guys...
You don't want to talk about that when you're out.
I've answered the questions a million times.
I know. I'm the same way.
Like, if I decide to date you, then we can talk about it then.
Right.
But it's like, I don't want to... And also like the day job too. It's like I do HR consulting. It's not exciting. I hire people for companies. It's like it's really boring essentially, but it pays very well.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm with you there.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say the other thing that I didn't think of as a flag until I thought back was like our first date. It was kind of going back to the selling himself.
Mm-hmm.
It was like he had this whole speech prepared. I'd been drinking. I didn't realize it was a speech until afterwards of like why he was single. Because he goes, I've been divorced for 3 years. This is the longest I've ever been single. He had this whole speech. It was like women in their 20s and 40s. They just think I'm a play toy. They don't want anything serious. Mm-hmm. Women in their early 30s. They don't want somebody with kids. They want to just have their own family. Mm-hmm. Women in their mid to late 30s, they just want to have a family. Their clock's ticking. So they're like, does everything work? Does everything work?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like he said it way too quickly that it was like, you've rehearsed this speech. Like, I'm not the only person you've said this to.
Oh my goodness.
And it was
rehearsed.
Funny. And it was funny because when he said that, like, girls will ask him to get a babysitter, and this and that. And when he called me to cancel the date that day, he goes, I have to take him Wednesday and I'm not going to get a babysitter because it's my kid. Like, he literally launched into this whole defensive speech.
As if you would have had a problem with it.
And I was like, I wouldn't, like, who who are you talking to right now? Like,
Right.
I wouldn't have asked you to get a babysitter. It's like, I think you're talking to somebody else.
Who you think you're talking.
Who you had
but
this
you're talking to
conversation
me.
with in the past.
You're responding to someone else.
It's really weird. And
Yeah.
then, but I was saving this to talk to you about until this episode. So, the yellow flags turned into red on the first night that I got there on this trip.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. And it has to do with our podcast.
Okay.
So we're out to dinner. And, I told you that he had asked me a second time if I wanted kids. And I still said no.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started getting the feeling that, he was kind of backpedaling. So I was starting to feel weird. The thing that made me mentally check out after this was he goes, what do you guys talk about in your podcast? And I said, oh, it's actually really interesting. This week we talked about the 3 attachment types. Mm-hmm. And I told him what the 3 were. You know what he said? He goes, oh, I'm definitely an avoidant.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And I went,
he goes, you're definitely an
what?
avoidant.
What do you mean? I was like, no.
Yeah.
I go, you push people away once they get too close.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't say no.
Right.
And what did he do, Imani?
He pushed you away as soon as
As soon as it was getting close. As soon as I flew there and was like, all right, yeah, we're doing this. Things are getting close. Bye.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh no.
He actually said he was an avoidant.
And he goes, yeah, I'm the king of, yep, I'm fine when I'm not fine.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's going to be a problem for me. Because what did I say? I have to not date avoidance anymore. And I have to be conscious of that.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I was like, oh my God, there's going to be no communication here. And what happened? He broke it off with me over text because he couldn't even have that conversation on the phone of, hey, I think, and like, be honest, like, hey, I think the location and the kid thing is going to be an issue. Right. Instead of just saying that, he sent me it was like we went back and forth arguing over text, and I'm like, this is so childish. Like you're a grown man. You're like a 40-year-old man with a child, and you're breaking up with me over a text message. Avoidant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Instead of just engaging, hopping on a call or whatever, and saying, hey.
Because I would have, if we had just had like a civil conversation about it, instead of it being like, you hate kids, you didn't ask about my son. And I'm like, well, you didn't make any time for me on this trip.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it was just this ugly text fight of like us pointing fingers at each other. And I was like, this would really be a better conversation to have on the phone. So we can talk this through like one way or the other. Yeah. I mean, we can still break things off. That's fine. But it's like so childish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no, he wouldn't pick up the phone. So what I did to be the bigger person, because I didn't like how we left it, I just don't like that stuff. It's like I don't like feeling like it was an ugly ending. Right. Yeah. So, and also I did it to be a little bit of a jerk too, because my my going back to the selfish thing and the yellow flags of him being selfish. My stepmom was like, so the day that he took his kid to the doctor's, it was my dad's birthday. We had a big birthday thing for him with all my siblings there. And it was my sister's going away party because she was moving to Europe and her husband were there. And it's like, my stepmom was like, does he know it's like, it's your dad's birthday today and your sister's party? And like, you're not like, you have other things going on. And I was like, yeah, no kidding. Like, I'm not sitting here thinking about your kid all day who I don't know.
Right.
You know
exactly. Why would you?
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was like, good point. Yeah. Debbie. So
it's his kid, not yours. I mean,
and I don't even know him. Like, it's like, I'm still trying to get to know you. I'm not trying to date. I'm not trying to date your kid.
Right.
Right. So the next day I just said, hey, I don't want to leave things on a bad note. So I said, I didn't mean to disregard your feelings, yesterday or being considerate of your son. I said, but it was my dad's birthday party. It was my sister's going away. And I was preoccupied. So, didn't want you to take that as a sign I was disregarding your feelings. Right. Basically, in other words, I have other stuff going on. It's not all about you.
Right. It's not all about you.
No, but and then he was like, yeah, no hard feelings at all. Like, totally fine. But, I said, I hate you.
Well, so I have a good question about yellow flags and stuff. So, when do you, in a relationship, and I'm just speaking in general, not you as in you, generally speaking, when do you in relationships go, okay, these are 1 or 2 yellow flags, and maybe we can work this out and move it past the yellow and not in the red direction, but in the white direction, if you want to just say another color, and stick it out instead of jumping from person to person to person.
No.
Because then the reason why I'm asking the question is you like never find someone perfect. So let's say someone showed you a couple of yellow flags. Doesn't work. Move to the next person.
Right.
Yellow flag. Oh, no, doesn't work. Next person. Yellow flag.
I think there's a difference between yellow and red, right?
That's what I was about to say. My whole point is, to me, if it's a red flag, you should jump ship.
Yeah.
But if it's a yellow flag, you kind of work through it.
Yes.
Each one teach one.
Yeah.
Because in relationships, we all tend to think that we all should know what we all are supposed to know, like everything about a relationship.
Yeah.
But in some circumstances, we can teach each other and learn from each other.
Yeah.
And it could be a teachable moment that you actually can grow from and stick in that situation. And maybe that yellow flag can be erased.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when does it really stop? You're always going to see a yellow flag. Mm-hmm. Now, again, to our audience, I'm not talking about red flags. Mm-hmm. Those you go 1,000 miles away. I'm going to give you a perfect example with my ex, Anna. When, for example, she had a problem with me taking my daughter to the Drake concert without her and made a big deal about it, that was a red flag. Mm-hmm. That's not yellow.
Yeah.
When she got upset because I made a joke about her brother taking an Uber home so that she and I can go on a date and made a big deal about it in front of my daughter who was there, who I also joked about taking Uber home. Yeah. That was a red flag.
Yeah.
I should have left then.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So there are red flags where you go, oh no, hell no. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you have small things like yellow flags that you can get past instead of jumping from person to person to person to person.
Yeah, but sometimes it's tough to tell too. It's like because sometimes
that's why I'm bringing it up.
That gray area. It's like when I was telling you, my ex was mad at me for 12 hours one day and didn't, we had a conversation at 10 that morning, and he tells me at 10 o'clock that night that he's going home because he's upset about something we talked about 12 hours ago.
Oh wow. It's
and at that point we're in a relationship, right? But it's obviously he can't communicate.
Right.
So it's sort of the thing is I
wouldn't call that a big red flag though. I would just say maybe the person can learn communicate, and the person has to want to change too. But want to grow and want to evolve.
People really don't change though.
Well, I think some people are not there, not living their absolute truth, their best version of themselves.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that a teachable moment can show someone a best version of themselves. They can evolve and learn.
Yeah.
Now, if organically deep down inside, they can't, they just can't. That's just who they are. That's different.
Right.
But I think a lot of times some people can evolve and become a better version of themselves through teaching and experiences and stuff like that. Because who teaches us? If our parents don't teach us about relationships, or our teachers or our college teachers and stuff like that don't teach us about relationships, what teaches you about relationships? Relationships.
Right.
So at what point do you go, okay, I'm going to learn from these relationships and become a better version of myself in these relationships and outside of them, because it's, if it's me, it's me. You know what I'm saying? At what point do you do that? And what point do you go, okay, no, done. You did that, done, bye. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think if it gets to a point where it keeps happening over and over and over
that's
again,
different. The person isn't learning.
It's interfering. Yep. Right.
That's different.
Because I told you my mom married her ex-husband, and I said I saw them when I was home, and I said, what changed between you guys used to hate. I mean, they hated each other.
Yeah.
I said, what changed? Because now they get along so well. And my mom goes, medication.
That's funny, medication.
Because my mom is a crazy Capricorn. She's anxious. Mm-hmm. She's impulsive. Mm-hmm. And she would kind of, and Capricorns like to be in control. Mm-hmm. And so 2 Capricorns, it was
alpha females, big time.
My mom was always trying to control him, but he was a Capricorn, didn't like to be controlled. Mm-hmm. So my mom had to chill out, honestly. She went on medication, she chilled out. Females. She dated some other people that weren't what she was looking for. And so now she lets him drink. We all party together because like she used to not let him drink. Like, you know, it was crazy. Yeah. But I mean, the whole point, I think, of relationships is like you want to make each other better people.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
That's the whole point. So,
but you know, with that said, you can't really assume that there's no growth, there's no capacity for growth and evolution. Again, if the person's doing it over and over, that's different.
Right. But you can't be the only one making those changes and making the sacrifices.
Oh, no, absolutely not. No,
so
it goes both ways.
That was how, you know, and that was how I felt with my ex is like, I was the one making all the compromises because I'm not the person who wants to go to Costco on the weekends with your kids, but I did it because it's like, I love you. I'm going to change. I'm going to be more domestic. I'm going to be good with your kids. I'm going to lead this suburban life with you. But what are you doing that I want? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, on the flip side, I want to travel with you. I want you to communicate with me, you know, and it's like, he didn't do any of that. I was the one making all the sacrifices. So
in that case, that's not cool.
They got to go.
They got to go.
She got to go.
He
had to go. He wasn't changing.
Yeah, in that case, they have to go.
No.
Yeah, if there's no change and growth, and you've talked about, I mean, you can't just talk about it. You have to be about it. You honestly have to do the work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you have yellow flags and the person is gracious enough to point it out, and it becomes a teachable moment, and you do the work, then it counts. But you have to do the work. You can't just say, you know, babe, thanks for pointing that out, and then next week do the exact same thing.
Yeah. Well, and I swear to God, that was my ex. He was the king of trying to better himself every day, but not like running on this hamster wheel.
But nothing happened. Yeah, that's like really different.
But I feel like it was also like some of it was kind of surface level stuff. Like he always wanted to get in better shape and eat healthier and this and that. And it's like, okay, what about in here? You know what I mean? You're eating for comfort to subside something that's going on in here, right? Because he would just like stuff his face at night. He had a problem. And people do that. Like they eat for comfort, right? And he said he was depressed. He had depression issues. But it's like, you got to look at what's in here. You don't just need to go on a new diet. Like the keto diet's not going to solve the emptiness in your soul.
Right, you know? Exactly. It's not. It's absolutely not.
But that was the thing. It was like, he just every day would say like the same things over and over, like wanted to change, but did nothing to try to do that. No. Just did not know how to communicate. So yeah, after years of that, it's like, okay, it's not going to go anywhere. But the other thing too is like, you know, I think a lot of us have boxes that we check off that are like more superficial. And I think we need to have the boxes that are going to help us, like that are more emotional, right? So like the reason I ignored Connecticut's yellow flags and red flags is because like he checked off all my surface level boxes. Like he loves music, he loves going to concerts, he loves to travel. You know, said he was okay with, you know, this bi-coastal lifestyle and very independent and didn't want more kids, like surface level stuff. Check the boxes. So because it was like, wow, he seems like everything I'm looking for. It's like, I needed to have a second row of boxes, which is like, not selfish, asks about you. Right. You know what I mean? Like makes you a priority. Right. And he, you know, in hindsight, he didn't check any of those boxes. So I think that's a really good point, actually. Yeah. I think you can have like the surface level stuff of like hobbies, right? Or things you have in common, but it also, you need to have the deep stuff that you need. Right. Yeah.
Right. What's fun is I actually wrote that stuff down in mine though. A lot of those personal things that you spoke about. Now that I think about it, I actually did, yeah. Someone communicate, emotionally available. Yeah, I did actually.
Well, and you said too, I think you had some yellow flags with your Taurus ex. Remember, you were like, you like said you got with her too soon. And then you figured them out after the dentist.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's what. Well, yeah, it was past yellow. With her, it was red.
Blinking red.
Oh, yeah. It was not one yellow flag. It was all red.
Oh, okay.
Like, straight up.
It wasn't any yellow leading to the red?
Honestly, man, Rach, with her, it was red.
Yeah.
Like, straight up red.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It was, man. Well, you know what? I did see one or two yellow ones that I ignored. Like she had lied about this trip.
Okay.
And I found out after the fact. She basically just told on herself by mistake. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought you said so-and-so. And I busted her out. And she had lied about this trip.
It's kind of red, I think. Catch him in lies.
Yeah, that is red. But the way she did it, I was like, I don't know. In the moment, it wasn't enough for me to go, I'm going to break up with you. So that's why I'm calling it yellow. Because I was like, okay, that was kind of shady. I'm going to let that slide.
Yeah. I feel like yellow is the things that if it goes south, you look back on and you're like, probably should have paid more attention.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I would say that those are the yellow flags for sure.
Yeah, because remember I told you like the guy that I dated last summer that we were both like rebounding. And he waited 5 days to call me after we had this amazing date. And it's like we spent the day together, the night, like went out to dinner, hours and hours and hours. And the first yellow flag, remember I told you when I kissed him, it was like I felt like he was holding back a little bit. And I was like, that was weird. It wasn't like this like passionate kiss. It was like I kind of felt like I made the move and he just sort of like stood in place kissing me. Like it wasn't, I don't know, something was missing. But I was also drinking. So when I was like, oh, maybe I'm just making that up, you know? But then he also waited 5 days to ask me out. If you like a girl, you're not waiting 5 days.
Wait 5 days.
No, that's craziness.
Definitely not.
No. So that was weird.
Yeah.
But but then it was like, oh, I had, he like somebody, it was like a hit and run with his car. He had all this stuff going on, but it's, and so I let it slide. But then you think back and you're like, I don't care what I have going on in my life. If I'm into somebody, I'm still texting you that next day. Like, hey, had a lousy day. My car got hit, so.
But a lot of times people, say like, don't text too soon and just that. And we talked about when, what's her name was here.
That's why I wanted to do an episode like someday about like, should you play games when you're dating? Because I do think there's like little things I agree with. Because I always have my phone like right here. So if it's like a new guy texts me, I don't want to be like, like so responsive that he's like, does this girl have a life? You know? So I usually will kind of leave my phone in the other room for a few minutes and like then go text him back, then go do something. Little things. Yeah, I do. But I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. Because like I was just thinking of like this guy on an app was like texting me all night long, making all these plans. We're gonna go sing karaoke together. Text me the next morning like, good morning, karaoke queen. Never heard from him again. And I was like, this guy went from so into me and then disappeared. It's so crazy. I don't know.
That's what they do, Rach.
But it was like, yellow flags, like too much, sometimes too much too soon.
Too much too soon, yeah.
They can be in quick and out just as quick.
Right.
So that's always a kind of a yellow to red.
Yeah.
Yellow to red flag to me if they're too much too soon, because that's what the 5-day guy did too. Then he wanted to be together all the time and we disappear. So I think it's safe to have a healthy pace. It's
funny about that because guys can be so physical. It's probably physically motivated when guys are like that.
What do you mean?
Wanting to go so fast so soon. They're physically motivated because what's so physical.
No, this was the guy that would not sleep with me. Like he would, he would be at my house from like Friday to Monday and we'd sleep together like one time. No, he would like smoke a bunch of weed and pass out.
Interesting.
He like wanted to be buddies. I swear. He'd like be like, want to go to the beach?
He wanted to be buddies.
I'm going to bring over episode like season 3 of Entourage and let's order pizza. And he would just sit there and like smoke a bowl all night and like fall asleep. And I was like, this is so weird. It's like he wants a buddy to like go to the beach with and hang with. But I was where's the sex?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like this is month 1. We shouldn't even be leaving the sheets.
Right.
That was a huge red flag to me. And then, and I think I hurt his ego and that's why he broke it off. And because he like made a comment the next morning. I was like, oh, I'm sorry I fell asleep. I go, yeah, I was really annoyed. And he was like, you were? And he got like kind of mad at me for being annoyed. I was like,
why wouldn't you be?
Yeah. Am I going to put myself to bed? Like not cool.
Am I going to put myself to bed?
No.
Oh my God! It was, like I said, the stories I hear from you just really trip me out.
It's crazy.
I swear.
I can't find anyone to take me on a date.
I'm like, what are these guys thinking, man?
Oh no!
Oh my God!
No.
Are you done? Are you done? You have more?
No, I think that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So to sum it up, what are we saying? look out for those yellow flags, people.
Yeah, pay attention to them.
Pay attention.
Maybe keep a list, and if it
list.
escalates into red, like you gotta think back. Like be mindful of
cautiously optimistic when you see those yellow flags.
Yeah, keep in mind, and this is what I've been really trying to do lately, is like keep in mind what you want, like what you're looking for. Be clear, because I was never clear. I was just like whatever, just, whoever I like.
Right.
And then you end up wasting 5 years with a guy who has 2 kids and lives 2 hours away from you that you're never going to have a future with.
Right.
So it's like now, okay, I got to get crystal clear on what I will compromise on and what I won't.
Right.
And the big thing was the avoidant thing. Once he said that, I was like, I'm out. He's an avoidant. Nope. I can't do it because I've done it multiple times and I know it doesn't work for me.
Right.
And of course it blew up in the end.
Right.
Over text.
Right. That's so funny.
So like really pay attention to those. And if they're all lining up to something that isn't what you want, it's better, I think, to cut it off earlier.
Right.
Than to invest more and more time in it.
Right.
And then you're just going to set yourself up for failure.
Yeah, just pay attention to them, guys. Don't just completely get rid of them.
Yeah.
Pay attention to them.
Yeah.
The red flags, on the other hand, stop staying.
Abort mission.
Abort mission immediately. And I'm guilty of it. I've stayed many times for red flags.
God, years and
you look back and you're like, those are so many red flags in the beginning.
Best years of me, wasted the best years of my life.
Exactly. And I also want to say too, man, with some of the yellow flags, like I said, if the person's willing to learn and evolve, and to me, that's also worth.
But they have to actually
They have to do the work. They have to show you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the last thing that I want to say.
I know.
They have to show you.
Because but then you also sometimes too, you can open Pandora's box when they do that. So like real quick before we go, my ex couldn't communicate, nothing. Wouldn't commit. Like that was a big thing. Wouldn't commit. So he's an avoidant. So every time things were serious, he would like try to break things off. And then he'd be like, what am I doing? I'm so sorry. I love you. Come back. And then break things off again. Yeah. So I finally said, I'm done with this roller coaster. I'm going to go date someone else. When I dated somebody else, he went crazy, called me. He had not cried. I'd never seen him cry in years. The years we were together, we went through some serious stuff. Never cried. As soon as I got with somebody else, he hysterically cried and was like, I do. Because he told me he never wanted to get married again, never wanted more kids. And I was like, I know that's not true. Like I could just tell, but he wanted, and like he wanted all of that. He just was afraid of it. He's afraid of it all falling apart again. So he said, called me hysterically crying, I do want to get married and I do want kids. I look at families and I want that. And I'm like, where did this come from? Because I triggered something, right, by being with somebody else. But when he came back again, it was the complete opposite of the person he was before. He cried all the time. He was so sensitive because I had been with another man in between. So anytime we were intimate, sometimes he would roll over and start crying. It was like, I don't know, it just feels different. Like, because I was with somebody else. Like you can't. It's hard to come back from that. It's almost like I didn't cheat on you. You wanted this. Right. You wanted to, see what was out there. But you can't come back from that. We couldn't come back from it. And I think he wanted to change. And, and I think he was trying to. And he did realize what he wanted. But I think it was too late. Yeah. That can happen. Sometimes it is. I know. So he found that with someone else. Good luck. Yeah. Anyway, guys, that's our show. Hopefully you got something from the yellow flag situations. I know I surely did. Like I said, I'm the one that brought it up to her a while ago, last month. So that was some good topic. Don't forget to follow us on ISENT Group Digital Infinite Stories Entertainment Group. That's what it's short for. RP Talk Truth is the Gmail. It's Relationships, Romance, and Propaganda Podcast. I just noticed you have the tattoo. Yep. ISEG. Yep. We are the sexiest relationship podcast on the planet. We are exposing the truth and broadcasting the lies every week. It's Imani, Shakur, Rachel K. Burke. Don't forget about her books, Love Bites and Sound Bites, a rock and roll love story. Google these. See, she didn't say that in the beginning. Oh, that's right. And we'll see you guys next week. We were talking about the side guy and the other woman. Ooh, that's interesting. Scandalous. All right, guys. Bye. Bye.